Where in Long Island are you?
Long Beach, New York. Are you familiar?
Sure, I used to go there every summer.
Really?
Every summer in Long Beach as a kid, sure.
Really? Where are you originally from on the island or around the island?
Hackensack, New Jersey. My dad was the chazan in Hackensack for 32 years.
Wow.
32 years. And then he died. He's a Holocaust survivor. And then he died, and he survived Auschwitz and Buchenwald. He dies, and about 5 years later, they put swastikas on the synagogue. By the way, if you're taping, you can tape this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll edit whatever doesn't feel right or sound right, but I'm so glad you called and not surprising that you called on time.
Oh, yeah, I would have thought earlier about getting my act together here in L.A. So you got to hear this. I'm the biggest fan of the Jewish Journal.
Really?
So
I mean,
ask me what. Friday night does not go by till I read it from cover to cover. Don't ask me why. I love the articles. I'm modern Orthodox, so it covers everything in L.A. I love Mark's column, the comedian, and I think he's great. I love David Cecina. And it's so funny because I don't know what else I read cover to cover like that. It's just the Friday night reading. I'll tell my wife, did you get the Jewish Journal? Did you get the Jewish Journal? She said, yes, I got it for you. And she picks up the Shabbos food. I don't know. I guess I met David and just enjoyed meeting him. But I love the article because it gives you everything from Orthodox, conservative, and Reform. And that's how I was raised. You know, my father was Orthodox. The synagogue where he was in Hackensack was conservative, and the people were Reformed. I respect everyone.
Well, I'm going to call this a mutual appreciation society because I've been familiar with you since high school, 20-ish years ago. I, of course, watched your reality show on VH1, the British Rock Symphony. I remember that tour. Simply put, your work has always been around. The Monkees reunion tour you produced, I think I was at that one. So you're one of these people who has 30, 40 years in music, plus the sports agent stuff you did. I grew up a major baseball fan, so therefore I know a lot of the people you represented. But it always intrigues me, people who work nonstop, yet aren't the ones that people stop on the street per se. Is that something that you like, that you can be anonymous while working with high-profile people?
It's a great question because you're absolutely right. I like to be the guy behind the scenes. And that's why it's taken me 5 years to finish the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp movie. I have a doc coming out. I was going to basically tell you, my film is coming out in February. It's really amazing. It tells the story of 25 years on how the Rock Camp, not only it changes the lives of the people who attend it, but the rock stars who've come. And the film is really, it's great. I'm telling you it's great because it took me 25 years to do it. But the biggest thing was holding it up, and it's still my nightly nightmare, is everybody was seeing the film the first couple times, said, David, there's nothing in there about you. There's nothing in there about you. So I said, yeah. No, I don't want anything about me. I want to promote all these rockers and all the campers. And they said, there's no Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp without David Fishof. You have to tell your story. And that's probably, I tried to do the film for the first 3 years without me, just trying to, and it became an infomercial, and people want, and I had to get it to the way. When I was producing Ringo Starr's tours, and I'd go to him for an interview, he would say to me, oh, give it to Nils, give it to this person, give it to that person.
Right.
He was always pushing the honor off everybody. And we have a thing in Judaism called ayin hara. I don't really want to be in the limelight. I want that to be for all my clients. And that's why I love pushing them. I have to do it on the film. I like the way it came out. It comes out great. And I do tell the story about my dad being a Holocaust survivor. I'm Orthodox. I wear a yarmulke in the film. So I think that I definitely know the Jewish community will enjoy it. My question was, what about those Judas Priest fans in Germany? So,
right.
But I grew up, and my dad being a Holocaust survivor in Auschwitz and Buchenwald. And there's a great book called The Yellow Star. It tells the story about him and his 5 mates and, how they survived the camps. In the 60s, he was a Hebrew school teacher in Brockton, Massachusetts. and then Hackensack, New Jersey. He was always telling the stories of the Holocaust. He was a big believer that everybody has to know what happened.
Right.
Now, there were many people who were raised, and the parents didn't say anything. I have cousins like that. My father spoke about it every day. Every day, he believed everybody should know. And he almost got fired from a couple of his jobs. His parents would call up and from Heyman school, and my father didn't back down. He really was a believer that everybody has to know. Anyways, how I got to that point, I don't know why I said that, but he was just always proud. So that's how he raised me. I came home from school every day, and there was a half a piece of bread in the refrigerator, and half a piece of toast. And I used to come home from the yeshiva, and I'd eat it. And one day I said to him, I said, "Dad, how come you never eat the whole breakfast?" He said, "I never knew my last meal was."
Wow.
So he had to save. And, my whole life, being a survivor's child, your whole life is totally been, changed. So, that's how you're raised. That's how you're brought up. And it never leaves you. It never leaves you.
Yeah. You're not the first or only high-profile entertainment person to be the child of a survivor. One or two members of Rush, I believe. Is it Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, or just Geddy?
No, Geddy. I'm a huge fan. It's so funny. I wanted to do my rock camp, not because of Rush, but he's one of my dreams, but because he comes from the same background I come from. And listen, there's no question. You could quote me. I wake up every day saying what motivated me was, Hitler should see that, he didn't kill us off and that we're all successful.
Sure.
And I don't know. That's how I was raised. That's my mentality.
Another high-profile person that I'm aware of being the child of a Holocaust survivor is Paul Heyman. He's in the wrestling world, but manages and does marketing. Comparable to you, he's a packager. Is that somebody that you've ever encountered?
No, never met him. But, I've met over the years other people, and Liz Meyer Gottlieb he was in the Holocaust. He's a film. I've seen his stories in the Jewish Journal. But listen, coming from a background, from that kind of background, definitely motivates you. And, definitely motivates you hearing these stories daily in your life. They definitely motivate you. And to me, in the film, they said, "Okay, well, we want to tell a story about you and your father being a cancer." I said, "You got to put it in there that, my dad survived the camps."
Right. Totally different way.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask something about you per se and give you a compliment, but part of my interruption there.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, so I'm somebody that even when I have a full-time job, I always do side work and freelance gigs because I like to work. And one of the things I really like about you and what you do, whether or not you realize it, is you create all these income opportunities for people when they're not doing their full-time gig. These master classes that you present, the package tours that you've always put together. People in Ringo Starr's band, of course, that's not their full-time gig. That's a side hustle in a way. So it's very menschy that you create these additional income earning opportunities. And right now, more than ever, of course, musicians kind of need that.
So this has been great. You're absolutely right. I'm always thinking of different ideas. I wake up every day with a new idea. I'm definitely a passionate person. And these master classes have even motivated me more than ever because every night I'm hearing from every rock star, every record producer, every music manager, record executive, what keeps them going, what their passion is. And I get off these master classes every night. Normally we advertise, they go 60 minutes, and they've been going 2 hours because the artist, Alice Cooper, said, "I got nowhere to go. So let's keep talking." Well, what can I want to share my knowledge with you. And they all have one underlying current, and that is the passion for waking up every day and doing what they love, be creative. And, I always tell everybody the way your goal in life should be to be successful and do your passion, and then money will come. Money will always flow. So Yeah, no, I'm loving the master classes, and you're right. I've been always looking for an opportunity to take Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp online for the past 2 years because, I was only a live event. And then it hit me. It hit me that I wanted to do either lessons online, find something for my campers so that when they leave camp, they can keep a connection with us. So I started these master classes in June, and they just start building and building. And I guess by the time your article, when you're ready to write it, we're doing a deal with we're doing with a deal with KLOS now, partner with KLOS Radio in LA to produce bigger ones with big artists. Roger Dolce is going to do one to raise money for Teenage Cancer America. Alice Cooper is starting off our program Halloween night, and he's going to do one, and he raises money for his rock school charity. So it's been an amazing program where every night you can get a ticket to watch and interact with your favorite rock star and ask him questions that you've never been able to ask them. Be in a position to look them one-on-one in the eye through Zoom and ask them about a lick, ask them that was on the album, how they felt when they performed, why they wrote this song, and anything from Jason Flom. The other day was brilliant when, a lady asked him, she said, I've been trying to reach you. And Jason's the president of Lava Records. And I've been pitching you this great musician. And, I haven't been able to get to you. And he said, well, hold on. Let me, what's his name? Fine. Let me listen. Not bad. Sounds good. The problem is that, he's 35, 40 years old. So that's probably why I didn't respond to you, because I didn't think that, someone that age to start a new act today. I need people that are 18, 19, 20 that I know will have a career ahead of them. But he was listening to music right on the spot from people's bands right on the spot. I don't like that name. So I thought that was so brilliant. That was Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. That's the fantasy, because we're in the access business. Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp is access. When I started doing these camps 25 years ago, none of these musicians ever did a meet and greet. None of them took photos. Every rock star ran out the back door, would never take a picture with an artist. And I think that, the camp was the one that introduced people. Hey, you could jam with them, you could meet them, and it opened up the door to artists meeting their fans.
Yeah, I'm going to even say you undersell how great the experience was and is. I attended one class so far, the Brad Gillister Night Ranger one. And I was not only blown away by how humble he was, how he was actually answering questions about gear. He played the solo for Sister Christian for somebody that wanted to hear it. But he also talked about his path of getting into writing music for television and commercials and video games. So here we are, we got a performance, we got an interaction, you learned about other projects that people did, and this isn't stuff that I've heard him talk about before. It's almost like you're producing, without knowing it, the best interviews that these people are doing.
Best interviews, and I'll tell you, thank you. And Sebastian Bach, some lady, I was watching his masterclass over again last night, because some of them are just so motivating, they're fun to watch. And a lady says, "Can we do a duet together?" She said, and he sang with her. And then we had Marty Friedman from Japan, and Marty Friedman, what a name, a great rock star, Marty Friedman.
I've interviewed him for the Jewish Journal.
Yeah. So I asked him. So Marty turns to someone. Okay, you play the lick. Let me hear it. Back and forth. So that's what's been great with Zoom. While the timing is not exactly to jam with them, the artist is turning to these people showing up to these classes with guitars. I don't know, on the Brad Gillis class, I was on the second one. I was on the first one, but to see people show up with their guitars and to interact back and forth, that was so cool. Eddie Kramer, telling people how they can record at home today. Mike Klink, and then I missed the Saturday classes for the Shabbos, but Eric Johnson, I was watching his class also last night. A guy called in from India, screaming, couldn't believe he's talking to his favorite artist and asking about a lick. Tom Hamilton from Aerosmith, people screaming into the phone, into Zoom saying, "I can't believe I'm talking to you." So it's just not a meet and greet. It's not where you get a quick photo and you leave. You're actually getting to communicate. And what's this COVID has opened this opportunity for the artist to communicate. You're right. And, when you never get Brad Gills relaxed and talking in his home. He's got nowhere to go.
Right. So is the plan to do these master classes long term, as long as people are going, even if concerts do wind up opening up in 2021?
100%. We're going to keep doing these classes all the time. We're now going to, Roger Daltrey is going to do one. Like I said, yes, we're going to get bigger artists to do it. Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, confirmed with me last night that he's going to do one for the KLOS radio. And yes, there's so much information that these artists can offer the people. And I think that, definitely going to continue. And I just opened up another tier where you can watch them for $25. And, I look at parents that, God bless folks who send their kids to these music colleges and spend $60,000 a year, and their child becomes a, who knows? They got anything from becoming a roadie to working in a studio. But, you're learning from people who haven't made it. You're going to hear these master classes for $100 from people who really made it. And I think that just gives you more motivation.
A lot of the artists you're mentioning have had careers for 40 or 50 years, literally. Like those first Alice Cooper albums under Frank Zappa were in the 60s. I don't think everyone kind of realizes that. But you came from the sports world. Who was the first artist that kind of brought you into rock and music in general?
Okay, so I was a sports. I started the Catskills, selling comedians like Freddie Roman, Henny Youngman, and then I transferred. I was like you. I was a writer for the Jewish Press, and I wrote an entertainment column at 20 years old. I always wanted to write a Jewish gossip column about Jewish artists, and I interviewed them all, from comedians Jack Carter to Alan King and Herschel Bernardi, and I started that, and then I did an article once on Elliot Maddox, who played for the Yankees, and Ron Blumberg. Ron Blumberg was the first DH for the New York Yankees. I went down to the Yankee Stadium, and I got an interview with him, and we talked about his Judaism and how he was raised in Atlanta. And then I asked him if he wanted to do a camp in the Catskills where I was staying and do an appearance. And he turned to me, and said, I can't do it because I'm rehabbing, but Elliot Maddox is out for the season. He's the center field of the New York Yankees. He's over there in the locker room. Why don't you ask him? And he wants to convert to Judaism. So I went over to him, and he said he would do it. And we exchanged numbers, took him up. I picked him up at his house, drove him to the Catskills, and I was 20 years old. And I said, how about I represent you? I mean, that was pure chutzpah.
Yeah.
And I started representing him. And then he introduced me to Lou Piniella. And I remember walking into Lou Pinella's house, and after I booked him on a camp appearance, with my yarmulke on, and he offered to, after I drove back from the camp, he said to me, here's $20 for the gas. And I said, no, not at all, please. And boy, I could have used the $20 then. He said, well, want to come in and have lunch with my wife and I? I said, well, I'm kosher. That was my response, but I'd love to come in and say hi and sit down. And at that time, I said to him, who's your agent? He said, I don't have an agent. I said, well, can I represent you? Let me go out there and try to get you commercials and endorsements. And I was 20 years old, and I got on the phone and I called every bank in New York, every clothing company, every ad in the New York Post, New York Times. And I landed a meeting with Bond's Clothes. They said, we'll take Lou Piniella. And I landed with the bank. They said, we'll take Lou Piniella. And now I'm in the sports business. I'm representing him and getting him commercials. They had just won the World Series. And that's how I started my career. And he introduced me to Vince Ferragamo. We came out to California to shoot a Sassoon jeans commercial. And he introduced me to Fred Dreyer, who wanted to be in acting. And I started Freddie in his acting career. And he introduced me to Vince Ferragamo. And then, once you start doing well for one player, they introduce you, they're in the locker room.
Right.
And that's how I picked up. And then I called Phil Simms one day to do an appearance. And he introduced me to 9 of the New York Giants. And that's how I built up my sports business. But I was doing sports, and it was amazing. My players were winning World Series. Phil Simms took the 87 Giants. They went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
But I got a call one day, and I was sharing office space with Chef Gordon and all these music managers. And someone called me up and said, "Am I interested here in LA?" I was living in New York. I'm living in New York at the time, and said, "Are you interested in representing the association?" And I said, "The association of what?" I'd never heard of the association. I was a sports fan, and I really didn't know the man. But I was in an office space with all these music managers, where I was just renting space. And Gary Kerpis, who represented Talking Heads, Blondie, the Ramones, they'd walk by my office. Meatloaf, manager was there. Like I said, Chef Gordon was there with Teddy Pendergrass, Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
And I saw these gold records on the wall. And I said, I want that. And, I love the creativity of the music business. So I said, I'm going to try that. So when I got called to do the association, I flew out to California, meet the band, and I talked my way into becoming their manager. Little did I know that when I got back to New York, I called every agent at the William Morris agency, and they said to me, "What are you, nuts?" I said, "Oldies band. We can't book that band. We can only get $2,500 a night." So I went and took each one of them to lunch, and I said, "Hey, please, can you just give me a shot? Give me a shot." And they all just helped me out, and the association started working every night. So all the other bands started taking notice in '84. The Turtles and the Grassroots. So I decided that, like I did in the Catskills, the Catskills, we used to package the comedians. We would go to the comics, and they would basically give them, 50 shows over 10 weeks, and they would book them wherever they wanted to book them. But they agreed to pay them. So I did that with the artists. I went to the Turtles. I went to the Grassroots. Went to Gary Puckett Union Gap, and I decided, you know what, let me package them like we did in the Catskills. And that's how I created the Happy Together tour. I did it 84. I did it again 85. I added birds to it. I added different, but I always kept the Turtles. And then 86 is the Monkees. It came to I got the idea to do the Monkees. And unbeknownst to me, I was on the 7th floor of 1775 Broadway. On the 8th and 9th floor was this fledgling network called MTV. And they had decided to air 24 hours of Monkees. And so I ran upstairs to Bob Pittman, and I said, "Mr. Pittman, can we talk about doing the Monkees, working together? Because, you're airing the show 24 hours and the next few weeks, and I'm doing a tour." He said, "Aren't you the sports agent?" I said, "Yeah, but, this is what I'm doing." And he said, "Well, sit down, kid." I'm going to think of it. He said to me, "How about you promote my new fledgling network, MTV, by putting our logo in all your ads, and I'll promote your band." So I said, "Great, let's do it." And we go on sale. And normally those Happy Together tours, they sold 3,000 seats. I sold 30,000 in Chicago, 30,000 tickets in Detroit. That's how powerful MTV was. Little did I know. And it turns out all these little girls were coming home at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the mother would say, "Where were you all night?" "Mommy, I was getting tickets to the Monkees." And they would say, "But I want to go see the Monkees. You know who they are?" And that's how my career started.
You should be giving the master's classes, it sounds like.
Right. And then then my next big tour after the Monkees, I came up with the idea to do Dirty Dancing as a live tour.
Right.
Because I was a waiter in the Catskills. And I said, "Wow, this is fun." I saw the movie. I said, if we could put these dancers on tour, and I called Bill Medley, Eric Harmon, and that's how I came up with that concept. And then my business model was I always got companies to sponsor my tours. And President Pepsi came to me, and he said to me one day, "Can we have lunch?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "The 25th anniversary of the Pepsi generation. We love how you, Mountain Dew, was able to sponsor your Dirty Dancing tour. And, for the products, they liked, putting their names on these tours because they would get access tickets. It's all about access. Everything's access."
Yeah.
And they would get, backstage visits and everything. So what happened was that I came back to him with the idea of doing Ringo and the All-Star Band. My brother Joey was the drummer. He wanted to be a rock and roll drummer. Ringo was his idol, but my father said, "No, you have to stick to Jewish music." And my brother became a Jewish music star. And that's how I created Ringo's All-Star Band.
Yeah, again, it comes back to the creating new paths for people away from what
Right.
they had actually planned with their careers. That's the recurring theme. You take an undervalued property, you package it with another
Right.
thing or two or three or four, you put it together, synergy happens, and that formula keeps repeating without doing the same content over and over again. So again, you yourself might be the masterclass that I think a lot of people want to hear, because it sounds like if you want to work in the music business, which I have, that the David Fishof routine, again, might be the thing that everyone wants to hear. Shep Gordon got his documentary. Hopefully there is a documentary at some point which focuses on the story that you just told me.
Well, yes, yeah. So my doc is coming out in February. Yes, my documentary is coming out, and it will be out in February. And it tells the story of the 25 years of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And I touched upon a lot of the stuff in the film. But it's basically, so it's in there. So the film's coming out in February.
Well, 2 quick questions, and then you're a free man, if you don't mind.
Sure, please. I'm here.
First question. Before COVID kicked in, what was the last concert that you were at?
Wow. The last concert I was at was Mordecai Ben David and Schwecky. No, okay. So I love Jewish music. Okay.
Sure.
My last concert I was at was, hold on.
I'm finding people struggle with remembering life before March.
Yeah. Alice Cooper. I think I was at an Alice Cooper show. Well, yeah, Alice Cooper. I don't go to a lot of concerts anymore. I'll be honest with you. I don't go to a lot of concerts anymore, just because I did it my entire life, and traveled every night to a different city. So so usually when I go to a concert, I go to say hello to the artist before the show and stay for the first 2 songs, and I'm out of there. Yes, REO Speedwagon. And that's exactly, I went to see the REO show. And it was awesome.
Yeah, great underrated band. Any chance there'll be a Kevin Cronin masterclass in the near future?
Absolutely. I love Kevin Cronin. What a great person. Yes, I talk to his manager regularly.
Cool. So my closer, David, and you've touched upon this a little bit, but feel free to say as little or as much as you want and plug your website as much as you want. Any last words for the kids?
So, okay. So first of all, the website's rockcamp.com. And please, find the masterclass. I guarantee you, every night you will walk away pumped up, motivated, learn something that you've never learned before. So that's a guarantee. But for kids, yes. So the lesson I've been learning every night is you have to get above the noise. You have to stay with your dream and getting above the noise. So I'm always questioning every record executive, every music manager, every producer. I'm a songwriter. How do I get my song? And how do I get to meet somebody that I really wanted to meet? So the response has basically been, Shep Gordon said it, find out about the producer, find out about the artist, find out about the music manager, and research about them, something that they do besides the music business. So let's say you find out this Mike Klink, who did Appetite Destruction.
Yes.
Let's say you find out that Mike is a golfer. Go get golf balls. Get 24 golf balls with the name Mike Klink on them. And Federal Express it to him. I guarantee you Mike Klink will respond and listen to your song. And I thought that, to me, that's the brilliance. I cannot tell you how many times people got to me by doing something above the noise. You have to get above the noise to meet somebody. And Jason Long says, I listen to all the music. I listen to music all the time. But you got to find a way to get the music. And he signed a new band, and this young kid kept calling all the time, hey, you got to hear this band, you got to hear this band. And, he listened to it. Somehow he liked the kid. I guess the kid got into his head. And then he said to him, the kid called him up, you got to hear this band, South of Eden.
Oh, yeah. I interviewed them 2 days ago. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He said, this guy's producing the band. This producer, he used the name. It's okay. Call the producer up after the phone call. The guy said, yeah, I'm blown away. I think this band's going to be the next biggest thing. Next thing you know, Jason said, I'm signing him. So I think that you could get to anybody in the business. I can't tell you how many artists I sent through Instagram an introduction without giving names, and they've written back to me, David, I didn't know, I didn't know. I never got your email, because listen, everybody has gatekeepers around them. But today, everybody's on social media. There's such an easy way to get to everybody. And I see the way people get to me. So you can get to anybody today. I sent Ringo Starr's lawyer a FedEx, a letter in a FedEx. So I think that, that's my message to anybody. You can reach anybody you want. And if you have a song and for a particular artist, go through the music manager. If you want to make it in this business and you want to reach anybody, learn about that person. And if they love chocolate chip cookies, send them a box of chocolate chip cookies. They're going to remember you.
Hopefully kosher cookies if it's a person that's kosher. But David,
kosher cookies, absolutely.